Hi, everybody. Welcome to Retroactive. I'm Martin Bispels. I'm here with Big Steve Parish, who, as you probably know, spent decades on the road with the Grateful Dead and the Jerry Garcia Band. And we're diving into his personal vault and hearing stories and celebrating all of his incredible history with the Grateful Dead. So, Steve, a lot of people know you from the Big Steve Hour on SiriusXM. Can you tell us a little bit about that show?
Yeah, that was a great outlet for me to talk to the people, and I love it for that. And when they first started Sirius, they came to me with an idea, and they didn't really have it all formed on what the channel was going to be like. So I was engaged to work with them, and very complicated, but it was only like a minute they gave me. It wasn't enough really. So I kind of let it fade away, and then 10 years later or so, they came to me, and then we worked this out now to where we could really have a show where I could take calls from people, and I did it free form. I started it by just talking, and that's one of my things that I can do really well, lucky enough in life. But what happened was it became a thing that put me in touch with the audience the way that all the time having the two bands, the Jerry Garcia band and the Grateful Dead, got to spend so much time with Jerry that he was always right there with me. And we would talk about all this stuff. And he would say, Steve, you're good at interviews, because we all would get interviewed and stuff. He was really great at it. And so we would talk about all that stuff. And then I realized that here was my chance to bring to the people what I knew from years of sitting and talking with him, that they never could get that chance. And I decided to let it out, and to show what it was like. I wrote a book that went that way, Home Before Daylight, and now I had a chance. And the people won me over. When I started taking calls, the show blossomed. It's been 10 years now we've been doing it, but the calls have made it so much great when I can meet the people. And in Las Vegas, when we did the Sphere, I stayed up there at the Venetian. They gave me a studio there, and I met the people, and they told me their stories and how much the show affected them. So it really means something to me. Now, I really messed up a lot. I didn't use all the methods to give the people everything they really wanted. And so for a while, I had a website, bigsteveparish.com, and now I'm really using it, guys. I apologize for not giving you the service I should have. Now the shirt's going to be available, and we're going to get it to you with the help of my friend Martin. We're going to fulfill it to you guys, and it comes out of love. And if you want to show it proudly and wear it proudly, please do so. And it's something that means a lot to me because I designed it all, and all these things are my life. What you're going to see, the shirts that we unveil to you, and the other merchandise. And if you feel
Yeah.
part of that, enjoy it because it's all ours. It's our world. One thing Jerry taught me every day was be the audience is more important than anything. This is what we're doing all of this for, Steve. The audience. When he played in the Jerry Garcia band in nightclubs, he wanted the lights on so he could see the faces of the people. He always loved that. Even in the Grateful Dead, we could light up certain rows, and he just loved that, seeing you guys. And you're part of it. And let's have fun with this.
I love it. Yeah, Steve, to your point, it's been great working with you to figure out what we can offer as far as merch. And, starting out with just the basics of Big Steve Hour merch so that people who love the show, like I do, can wear it, right? And wear a piece of the show and
Right,
celebrate it.
exactly. Very
Yeah.
well put.
Thanks. And then the other merch we're creating from your incredible archives, right? You have all kinds of things you've saved from decades of years on the road, and we're turning that into really unique merchandise that we'll talk about as well. So, Steve, everybody has heard of the Wall of Sound, but I'd love for you to just share a little bit more, and we have some great pictures to show as well.
The wall of sound was a big, big thing in our lives. And all of us that started on the Grateful Dead crew, we worked with a man named Augustus Stanley Owsley. And Owsley Stanley was a guy who was unlike anybody else, man, in the world. And out of his mind came this idea of sound. And we had a place in San Francisco called Olympic. And that's where we worked together and began the forming of the crew. And every day, Jerry and all the other guys in the band and in the Jefferson Airplane people and the Quicksilver guys, and everybody came there to study under Owsley's tutelage of what all the psychedelics we were taking brought us to a sound level that is untouched. And with our own two hands, we built this thing, every one of us, and we learned the skills right there at Olympic. We had a place where you could learn how to build cabinets, from this guy, Sal Cardinal, who we got from Zach's electronics store, and he joined our little crew, and he showed us all about woodworking and building this amazing cabinets out of 14-ply finished plywood. Finland was where it came from. And we bought it at Beast Hardware in Berkeley. And in that same way, absolutely taught us every little thing of the metaphysical world of sound. It became our lifeblood, or we lived it. Really, that wall of sound was built by about 5 or 6 of us, and there was a lot of advisors and people talking and around us, but we are the ones that did it, the Grateful Dead crew. And so this shirt not only commemorates the wall of sound, but it commemorates a handful of guys who came together through destiny to do the work and to build this thing and to take it all over the world, which is what we did. And Ramrod, Jackson, Kid, myself, Sparky, we were the basis of that. Joe Winslow was there with us, and we did this thing, and we took it everywhere. And it was an accomplishment that I am proud of. And people can talk about it and think they know about it and try to understand what the sound was, but it was something that we gave our blood, sweat, and tears to. And it was like something ironclad in our minds, every inch of it. And it was personalized to us. It's a bunch of guys who did whatever they wanted and partied like maniacs, were strong, young, and able to do this. And I'm the last survivor of all of them. They're all gone. And I'm going to tell the stories now. Hunter was so impressed with it, he wrote sea shanties that he wanted us to sing while we did it, while we put that thing up. 35 feet in the air, because that's what a standing bass wave was. That's why it was as big as it was. If the scaffolding wasn't right, we couldn't put it up. So we had to have the scaffolding exactly right. And we used to do one-nighters. So that's where people think there were 2 crews. No, there weren't. There was 2 scaffolding guys that would go ahead and make sure everything was right, because it had to be exactly right. But there was just one crew that put the fucking wall up every time with hundreds of speakers, hundreds of JBL speakers of every kind, also 75 Macintosh 2300 amplifiers to run it. So it's an amazing compliment to the crew of what we did, our accomplishment. And somebody has to say that, because it's always talked about as all these other things. Nobody even thinks about what went into putting that up and down and building it. We could look at every piece and know we built every cabinet ourselves. We put every speaker in there. We did it all. At Watkins Glen, we were assembling some of this stuff because we kept building a PA from 2 sides and going together. I could talk about this for hours. I'm not going to. This shirt is a beautiful shirt of a shot of where we use sometimes for reference for people to see what everything was. It wasn't an
Yeah, so
official
you have that
thing.
sketch. Yeah, you have the sketch of the wall of sound. So what does that represent? Was that the kind of like
It
the
represents just a thing
instructions?
that was somebody printed out, and then we just filled in. It was filled in with what everything was, so people would know, because they were always asking. And it was something that we used. It didn't go out to the world. I don't even remember if it was ever published. It was just something that was around.
I love this. The sketch that came from your personal archives is now available. We're making it available as a poster and on a T-shirt so that people can wear and touch and feel it, right? And
I think it's something that a lot of people have asked me about, and we can tell it now, the real truth, through this way. And you can't just do it individually, so it has to be on this broad scale. That's the way it is, and that's what that represents to me. And if people want to see more about it and they want more questions, we'll answer them for them in another way, because this is a thing that we're starting right now. This is a new thing. This is a new way of communicating with people
that's right.
for this modern age.
No, I think you're incredible stories that people enjoy all the time on SiriusXM, but now being able to see, some of the pieces, the things that you've collected over the years, I think
Well,
it's just awesome.
yeah, that's really interesting you say that, because the next shirt is all about a story of what happened on the road. It is a story, and it was an amazing story. And wonderful thing of me that I was so lucky to spend so much time with Mr. Garcia, and we were friends like I can't explain, because you're on the road together. Every day we were rehearsing. We had 2 bands together, which takes all your freaking time up. He used to hang out. He loved the crew. He formed us, and he came out with us all the time. He would be there while we set up and watch everything. And so one day we were on the road and we were in New York City, and he loved to go out. In those days, in the early days, we were in New York at the time, finishing up shows there, getting ready to move up to Philadelphia, down to Philly, actually. And he and I were standing in front of the Hotel Navarro at the time, which later became the Ritz-Carlton on Central Park South. And we were on the side of the traffic side between us and this limo that we were getting into to go out to the airport. Or excuse me, it was going to take us down there. And so we were there and a couple of crew guys were hanging out, but Jerry and I were on this side. And a car just stopped and handed out the window a, a shoebox to me, a white shoebox. And so I opened it up in front of Jerry, and inside was a live chameleon. And what the heck? And it came with a letter. Jerry grabs the letter and starts reading it. It says, "This is the lizard god, Chonga Bonga. Keep him alive, and he's your responsibility now," basically is what it said. So we're going, holy shit, here we are on the road. We're about to go moving, and what are we going to do with this thing? And Kid Candelario, he was there with us, working on the crew and everything in our lives, part of it. And so he and I went with Jerry, and we went to the next town. And when we got there, we immediately realized we had a responsibility. Now, I got to give Kid credit for really thinking it out about how we kept this guy alive on the road with us. And that is by taking him to a room that we had set aside for the party room, the tape listening back room. We call it that party room. And so we put Chonga Bonga in there at the hotel, and Kid came up with just dripping the water, hot water, just dripping it very gently. It steamed up, eventually it steamed up the room, and we checked it out, and we saw that he liked that, and so the next day we have a show to do, and we left him there. He hung out. Everybody knew to respect him and loved him. Everybody got to know him as we hung out in this personal room after the shows. So we're on this tour, and that's hard. We were going everywhere across America at the time. And we went into the Midwest. We kept him alive. We kept him alive day after day. And now I believe that because of that effort, he's worthy of a shirt to commemorate him. And we tried to take it out of our minds and create a shirt that you guys would like, because our habits of smoking so much weed, he got high. And that's all I can say right now.
But I love the story of Chonga Bonga, and, just the idea of the randomness and the crazy world that you were living in. It just seems to fit right in that someone would just hand you an iguana, right? That's incredible.
That's the miracle of it. Were those guys watching us? Did they know who we were? They just came around the block. I did see the guy. He was long hair, but he seemed to know who we were, I felt. But it was a sort of a real weird goof. Why were they driving around with a lizard in a box anyway? But, they knew, a lot of people knew where we stayed. And so it might have been something that came out of love, and it was funny, and it became a personal story. And there's so many stories in our lives. Every day was all these adventures, and it was easy to lose that. It's in my mind, in my heart, that story, and no one else is alive to tell it but me. So here we go.
I love the story of Chonga Bonga, and that's why, just what we're talking about, the blending of these stories and the life you lived with some merch, right? That allows people to celebrate it and share it in their lives. And I hope to see a lot of Chonga Bonga shirts, at all the shows. And I think it'll be a fun thing for people to be able to say, "Hey, I know who that is. That's Chonga Bonga," right? And my designer, Jim, created a version of Chonga Bonga just for us. And so this wasn't AI or anything. We have a real designer that drew that iguana, and that's important too.
The completion of Chonga Bonga's lizard godness is now here, because if it lives like you're saying, he becomes another life beyond what he was, and he never dies that way. But if not, he goes the way of all of us. It's all good. But that's a good thought. I like thinking about that way, that this is giving him a new life. Maybe it takes on, maybe it doesn't. Who wants? It's something so bizarre. It's like the oddity of our lives, of freaks and freak animals. But he was really cool. He was a cool little roadster.
I love it. I'm happy to honor him. That's great. Thanks for watching, everyone. We're going to have a lot more with Big Steve. So follow us and check us out at bigsteveparish.com and retroactive.com. Thanks again for watching.